Hi MEO Class 1 aspirants, Jai Hind, Jai Bharat, Jai Mata Di. Chief Engineer Sunil Chauhan sir has created this wonderful but very long package. I am telling you. Why very long? क्योंकि MEO Class 1 की कोई limit नहीं है, codes, conventions, so many things. But I thought कि even if you have cleared your MEO Class 2 and even if MEO Class 1 is far off, if you want to go on ship, have this package because it has got lifetime validity. कभी भी ship पे जाओ, daily थोड़ा थोड़ा देख के notes बनाते हो, at least you know where you have to go. So just this sample video on fund convention, watch this video ahead. At least you know how is he teaching, whether it will be helpful or not. Strict notes but relevant as of today, taking you one step ahead. तो बजाय कि अब right now going for MEO class 1, then going for coaching and then preparing, you know what to study, where to study, how to study, and then you're a part of community where we can discuss and move it. Watch this video, and if at all you're interested in buying this package, it's got lifetime validity, go ahead. The link is in the description box as well as the comment section.
So now let's come to another convention, which is our fund convention. So what is fund convention and what was the need? So we will study about this convention. So fund convention, the first one came in 1971 and which was later modified, or as we can say improved upon in 1992. So the name of this convention is Convention on the International Fund for the Compensation for Oil Pollution Damage, right. So what was the need? I'll just give a brief idea. As we have said in CLC, the 4.51 or 89 point something million SDR, the limits, right, million SDRs. So here it was not said that who will be paying for this. So it was coming from the insurance and all. So but now the ship owners, so they decided to make a grouping where they will compensate this money. I mean, they will collect some money, they will contribute, and then they will kind of help each other. So the fund convention was established. Now what happened? It was adopted in December 1971 and in October 1978. So almost 7 years later it came into force, and it was later on superseded by the protocol. So this 1992 was the protocol, 1971 is your main convention. So now again the same question, what was the need and who will contribute the money and which oil, right. So need, so tier 2 compensation, that means what? Suppose as we had taken an example, that suppose an oil tanker does a pollution in the coast of Kerala, and the cost of the cleanup and the compensation for the fishermen and all is going way beyond what the limit is being subscribed by the CLC. CLC subscribed that if it is a less than 5,000 to 4.51 million SDR you take from him and just let him go. But if the cost is say 20 million SDR, right, so where will that remaining 15 point, let's say 5 million SDR come from? So they will come from your tier 2 compensation, or that's for that was the reason that this convention was brought in, right. So who will compensate any money that is over and above the limit set by the CLC, right. So the idea is clear that who will compensate, right. So somebody will compensate for the excess amount. So that's why this tier 2 compensation over and above the tier 1 is for the CLC was established. Now who will contribute the money? As we have said, the ship owners, that means a club of ship owners, they will give every year, they will give some money and then that will be collected. Then suppliers, right, not just the ship owners are the transporters, but the suppliers, right. So they were included in this, and the recipient of the oil, right, like suppose supplier is Aramco. If Aramco is a Saudi company, so he suppose they are supplying oil and I am taking on the SCI ship, suppose, and I am bringing for Reliance. Suppose this is the scenario, and in this case this is just one case, so just to understand. So now suppose oil pollution happens in some some place. So the supplier, the receiver, and all the ship owners, whosoever are party to this convention, basically the member states. So all these ship owners and the suppliers and the receivers will compensate, they will contribute basis the call. Now as we had said, which oil was covered? So here the crude oil, that means hydrocarbon mixture naturally occurring in the, or fuel oil, that means bunker oil. So all these oils are being covered in this fund convention. Now we will study compensation, right? So when will the fund convention compensate and all? So that is being talked about in article 4 of this convention, right? So when it says when will the fund convention, so fund convention is kind of a fund being raised under the IMO. So when will they compensate? When no liability for the damage arises under the CLC 92, such as non-maintenance of navigational lights. So what does it mean? See, this was an exemption in CLC, right? That means when a ship is coming in a coastal space and there was accident happened because of the non-maintenance of, let's say, some navigational light, and that pollution happened and damage happened, right? So the ship owner will not pay in this case, understand? So who will help this state? So the fund convention will pay for the cleanup and compensation in that case, because you cannot extract from the ship owner in this case, because ship owner did not commit any mistake in this case, right? When another case, when will the fund convention pay? When the owner liable for compensation, suppose the owner is supposed to pay, that means it has done some mistake and it is supposed to pay, but the owner declares bankruptcy. It says, I don't have anything, do whatever you want. So, or it says that I can pay, let's say 4.5 million is the amount that is supposed to pay, but it says I only have 1.5 million. So if you want, take this one, otherwise I don't have any other money. So who will pay the rest of the money? So it will come from the fund convention, right? Now when the damage exceeds the owner's liability, as I had discussed, that suppose the total expenses were some 20 million SDR, but the owner is supposed to pay only 4.5 million SDR, then who will pay the remaining 15.5 million SDR? So this will come from the fund convention, right? Beyond the CLC limits, if it is beyond the CLC limits. Yeah. Now next question arises, when will the, we have just seen that when will fund convention pay out, but when will the fund not compensate? So these exemptions, as we can see, are same as CLC exemptions, such as pollution caused due to the acts of war. Suppose a war is going on in that state or its coastal water, or because of some hostilities. Suppose India and Pakistan are at war and we are in the hostilities. So Pakistan drops bomb in Gujarat port or something like that, and oil pollution happen. So fund convention will not pay. It will say, you first sort out between yourself. I am not going to pay for this one because you are at war or civil hostilities, or there is some civil war going on in that area, and because of that either they destroy or accidentally or intentionally, so that will not be paid by the fund convention. Another one, when claimant cannot prove that the damage resulted from an incident involving one or more ships. That means one claimant, as let's take again that example of coast of India. So yeah, so let's say this ship oil pollution happened and this oil. So claimant in this case will be India, right? And this is your party basically, from where you have to extract the, or where you have to ask for the compensation. But India cannot somehow prove that the oil pollution was done by this ship because of certain reason or whatever. So in this case, this is not going to pay, because you cannot prove. If you cannot prove that I have done pollution, then why I should be paying? So, but oil pollution happened. So, who should pay? Should the fund convention pay to India? No. In that case, it will not pay because it cannot prove that the damage resulted from an incident on behalf of whom the fund should pay. Right. So, fund is paying on behalf of this ship, but you could not prove that this ship did the pollution. So, fund will not compensate for the pollution. Right. Then acts of omission with the intent to cause damage. That means one, suppose again somebody here did something deliberately so that this ship agrounds or does some pollution, and then we can extract some money. So, if that is the case, then also the fund will not refund back the will not compensate. Now, how much will the fund pay actually, right? In the all cases of incidents involving ships, payment including CLC, that means part of it will come from CLC, right? Suppose the let's say the from the CLC liability was 4.5 million and the total claim was 20 million, right? So, only 15.49 as such million SDR will come from the fund convention, right? So, including tier 1, so and of 89 million SDR, right? So, if the ship that is another case where the ship's liability, suppose it is 1,40,000. So, this was the case for 1,40,000 tonner, right? So, if the 1,40,000 tonner ship is involved in the accident, then maximum that can be extracted from the ship owner will be 89. So, anything over it, suppose the expenses go beyond this one, let's say it goes to 100 plus something, then whatever is the difference, 100 minus this much, that much only will be paid by the fund convention. Another one, in case damage due to natural phenomena like tsunami, or the payment including tier 1 compensation will not exceed 203 million SDR. So, even after the fund pay, how much will it pay? It should not exceed 203 million. Suppose the total claim is 205. That means cleanup cost, then fisherman cost, industry cost, everything, right? Salvage cost, suppose 205 million SDR. So, out of this 205 million SDR, 89.74 will come from the CLC. However, this fund will pay only such that this plus fund convention becomes equal to 203 million. That means the state will have to suffer 2 million SDR loss. I hope I am clear on this one, that maximum compensation in any of this case will be 203 million SDR. Now, even if there are accidents because of the tsunami, the payment of compensation will not exceed 203. This was in the case when there was a accident or something like that, but suppose tsunami came and the ship ran aground and the pollution happened. So, in that case also the compensation will not go beyond 203 million SDR, right? Now, third is like payment in a single incident can be increased to 300.74 million SDR. That means what? But it has got a certain condition including tier 1. Tier 1 maximum is your suppose 89.74, right? So, 300.74 minus 89.74, so that much will come from the fund. But when will it come? When certain conditions are met. What are those conditions? That there are 3 parties to the convention or the fund convention whose total aggregate import of oil during the preceding calendar year. That means, let us say the 3 parties to the convention, let us say India and China and let us say Australia, right? So, India and China are one of the biggest importer. I am not sure about Australia, but let us take Australia. So, suppose these 3 countries in the previous year, suppose the accident happened on 12th of July 2023, right? So previous calendar year means from 1st January 22 till 31st January 22. So the previous calendar year means this. That means what? In this time period, if three of the parties, suppose India, China and Australia are the biggest importers, then their collective import, if it is greater than 600 million tons, so 600 million tons, suppose India imported let's say 300, China imported let's say 200 and Australia imported said 101 or even 100 for that matter. So 300 plus 200, 500 plus 1, 600. So if three states, three of the parties, they import 600 million tons or more. So this is 600 million tons. Then in that case, suppose in from 1st January 22 till 31st January 22, these three countries imported let's say 600 million tons of oil, right? Then in that case, and pollution is happening the next year or the next calendar year, then the fund convention will increase, but this will happen only as we have said in a single incident. Then it will increase to 300.74. That means from 203 to, so almost 97, yeah, almost 97 million SDR it will pay more in that particular case. Now, who will contribute to the fund? As we have already seen, now what is fund? As we have seen, it is a they will make a committee basically. So International Oil Pollution Committee, right? So they will do the collection and then disbursement and all. So this fund convention will make an IOPC, International Oil Pollution Committee, and then they will evaluate the cost, they will verify the cost, and then they will issue that much money to the affected state. So now here, who will contribute? So that is mentioned under Article 10, and it says any person or entity, right? Now in a country, as we have said, receivers, so there were three parties, right? Receivers and of course sellers basically who are selling the oil, and the transporters, right? So these were, that transporter means our ship, this is the oil companies, and this is the receiving oil company or whatever. He may be a Reliance or he may be a HPCL, somebody like that, right? So all those persons or entities who receive 1,50,000 ton. How much? 1,50,000 tons or more of contributing oil. Again, contributing oil, as we have read, this is bunker oil or lube oil or all those category oil in a calendar year, right? And where? In ports and terminal installation in the territory of a party state. So only that will be counted in this case. And then carried at sea and discharged in ports or terminal installation of non-party states, right? So all this basically it is covering all the oil that you deal with as a company or as an individual, and if it is more than 1,50,000 tons, then you are liable to pay to the fund. But do we have to pay it like a kind of a cess, like 1%, 2% or 3%? That we'll study later, but that will come only when the fund asks for the money, and they ask only to meet the compensation requirement, not that they are making a kind of a buffer stock or something like that. So each year based on the previous year compensations, they will ask for the contribution, right? Now how is it done, right? So how is it done? So process of request and the payment. So who will request? So as we have seen, IOPC will request, the committee that has been made by the fund. So they will request whenever there is a claim and they have to settle it. So they will request the money from the contributors, and then a payment will be made by the contributor. So contributor in this case, as we have already seen, the receiver of oil, I mean whosoever is doing more than 1,50,000 ton business, that those are. So what happens on 1st January of each year? Okay, so let's say it is today is 1st January. So what do I do on this, being a chairman of this? So I ask my secretariat to send requests to all member states for submission of the oil reports. So that means what? First I need to know who all are the who all will be the contributors. So how will I know? I will ask for the oil report for the preceding year. That means 1st January 22 till 31st January 22. So I am doing this on the next day, right? That I am sending this notice to all the contracting government and I am asking them, you kindly send me the list of all those importers or entities, person, whatever, who has imported more than or equal to 1,50,000 ton in this particular time period, right? So what happens? Then 30th April, that means here only, 2023. So we are talking about this year. Member states submit the oil report. So they are given a time period of 3 months because they cannot do it in just one day. They don't have anything they can just ready to send. So they will take their time. So up to 30th April 2023, these people, all these member state who are party to the convention, whenever we are talking about member state, it means those who have signed this convention, right? So they will submit the oil report. Oil report for the preceding year. Preceding year means this year basically, right? This time period. Then what happens in October each year? That means now again. So this was 30th April 2023. Now October 2023, what will happen? Governing body, right? Whether and how much to levy per ton of contributing oil imported. So the governing body, that means this secretariat, as we can say, this is kind of a governing body or IOPC, they will decide. Now 30th April, they have got the list of all the contributors. So suppose let's say there are 10 contributors, right, who has done the business of more than 1,50,000 ton. And in that year there were suppose only one incident of pollution. Okay, where they need to do the compensation. So there was suppose only one incident of pollution. So now the governing body will decide how much to levy from these 10 contributors so that we can compensate this particular incident. So now this will not be straight basis on that each one will pay equally. Suppose someone may be buying 1,50,000, other may be buying 150 lakh thousand, right? So he will pay, definitely pay more, and he will definitely pay less than this one. Yeah, he will contribute. Now what happens? November each year. That means in November 2023, what will happen? Secretariat. So in October they have decided how much to levy. So in November the secretariat will issue invoices directly to the contributors. Now they will not send the letter to the government of India and then government of India will ask Reliance and HPCL or IOCL and all those. They will directly, that means this secretariat, IOPC secretariat, they will send letters directly to the contributors. That means addressed to the Reliance and IOPC and all these, HPCL and all. So it will send directly to them to give the money. Now, by March 2024, so now next year has come. So March of next year, contributors pay their levy contribution. That means those who were issued with this notice or levy invoices by March next year. So notice was received in November of this present year. By March next year, so I have got another 4 months, right? So to pay the money to the IOPC. So now we understood that pollution happened in say year 2022. The notice for collection was issued in 2023 and actual contribution came in 2024. So by this time the money has reached the IOPC. So when they and basis that later on they will issue to the affected state. So I hope this is the this process is clear. Now when the notice is being sent to the, as we have already seen that the Secretariat had issued a notice to the government to give the oil report. Suppose there is no contributor in India for that particular year who has imported more than 1,50,000 tons, right? So what will I as a member state do as in India? So I will do this nil declaration form. If none of the importers qualify the 1,50,000 ton limit, and it is reported to the director of the oil pollution committee, right? So that they know, they should not be waiting that maybe India will send tomorrow or day after tomorrow. No, if none of the importer has qualified this limit, then it's my responsibility that I send this nil declaration form to that director IOPC, right? So that is there. Then now again the repetition of question, basically I have prepared these slides in a question answer type format so that it is more interactive and we can just recall, right? So the questions that are generally being asked in the examination, they are not directly that why IOPC will ask for the contribution and all. So they may be indirect, but basically the answers that need to be covered are more or less what I have covered in this convention. Another point that I want to say is that most of these conventions that you will be watching and studying here, these are already synthesized. So kindly do not re-synthesize it further because it is already compressed and most of the vital information is being covered. So if you miss out or if you reduce any of this, then you will be lacking onto the your preparation. So this is already concise, right? So just a reminder on that one. Now why, let's come back to the question, why IOPC asks for the contribution. As we have already seen, so this particular thing is being covered under Article 12, loan repayment, right? So we'll understand what is this loan repayment. Then incident payouts. Suppose there was a pollution incident in some country, so fund has given the money. So I'm talking about this one. Then administrative costs. So when we are maintaining a IOPC, right, and a secretariat and directorate, so you are going to, of course they are going to have an office, they will run the AC and they will drink some tea, coffee, etc. They will be compensated, you have to pay them the salary and all. Although it is a not for profit kind of organization, that means they do not intend to profit, they do not intend to make profit out of this. So, but they have certain administrative costs. What are those costs? Sending the notices, receiving the money and all those things. So we have to cover for those costs, right? So as we have already seen, it is a not for profit organization. Loan repayment. Suppose in one particular year there are maybe let's say 10 oil pollution incidents around the world, and let's say there are 20 contributors who qualify that 1,50,000 tonner equation. So there are 20 contributors. So for 10 pollution, the amount of compensation will be huge. So if we ask these 20 contributors alone to pay, so these 20 will go out of the business and or they will just leave this business. They'll start doing some other business. So we cannot overburden them. This is just a scenario. So what we will do, we will take a loan to pay those compensation. We will pay the compensation, we will take a loan. So these loans will be later on slightly passed on to these people only, but not at one time. So these 20 from this year, 10 from another year, like that, right? So loan repayment in there is in that context. Now how is the fund convention administered. So this is covered under Article 16, 17, 18 and 19. So what does it say? Under Article 16, we will have an assembly and a secretariat, right? Secretariat headed by the director, as we have seen, director of IOPC, right? And we will have a secretariat. We need the staff who will be working on a day-to-day basis. Also, we will have an assembly. Each contributing member, right? Each contributing state will have a representative in the assembly, right? It's just like a General Assembly of United Nations. Each country has a representation there. So here also we will have a representation of each country, right? Then assembly will be headed by the chairman and conducts regular sessions. So assembly let's say there are 100 or let's say there are 50 participants, right, to this convention. So we will have 50 members at least in the assembly. So for 50 members to convene and meet and do the business every day is not possible. That's why there was a need for this secretariat and IOPC and a director. So these are maybe 10 to 12 people who can preferably stay there and do the meetings and all. But nevertheless, to discuss about the incident and the future of the convention and all, so all these members will meet at least once, and at least a 30-day notice should be given. It's not that tomorrow you will call everybody to Washington DC. So it's not like that. Yeah. So we need to give 30 days advance notice to all these members to send their representative, right, for the convention, and agenda is already pre-discussed.